Hey guys, this is a video that I promised about my hotel stay in Williamsburg, Virginia. You know, as most of us, we are that travel for work. You know, we have to stay in hotels from time to time. And I booked this online before I got there. It was a budget-friendly hotel, and I never dreamed that it would turn into what it turned into. Now, pulling up to the hotel, it's a high traffic tourist area in Williamsburg, just about a mile from Jamestown, his settlement, the historic settlement, you know, where they do the live reenactments and whatnot. So, I mean, it's a very busy place. There's numerous hotels right there next to it. And pulling up at this one, from the pictures and all, it looked acceptable, you know, for $57 a night. Out of season, of course, you know, but I figured it would be okay. So I went and checked into the hotel room. The hotel room, you know, $57 a night. It was dated, and it could use a little sprucing up, but it looked fairly clean, you know. The beds were made, the floor was dingy, you know, it had a little dirt and hair scattered around the bathroom, you know, which is pretty much par for the course nowadays when you check into hotels, unless it's some really fancy $500 a night hotel, which God knows if you're out of town working you can't afford. Wish I could, okay? This one advertised a hot tub and an indoor pool. And I thought, okay, yeah, you know, that sounds good, you know. I like a hot tub just as much as anybody else. So the second night I was in the hotel, I decided, well, I'm gonna go get in the hot tub, you know. So I changed into my shorts and grabbed me a towel and walked to the hot tub. Looking at the pool's crystal clear. It looked good, and the hot tub was a little dingy looking, and the water wasn't hot. So I turned it on and left it on a little while, you know, about 30 minutes or whatever the timer is, and you know, I was sitting in the hot tub waiting for it to get hot, thinking that's what the deal was. But after, you know, 45 minutes, you know, I realized it wasn't getting hot. It wasn't a hot tub. It was just a bubbly pool. So I got out the next day. Well, that night I noticed that getting in the sheets of the bed, I felt itchy, you know, just itchy. I woke up the next morning and the tops of my arms, from my elbow down to my wrist, on both arms, were just eat up with hives. You know, backs of my legs, the crease of my neck, and back of my head a little bit. I started itching thinking about it. You know, it felt itchy, you know, and I broke out in hives now, you know. So I went and got Benadryl, thinking it was something I'd come in contact with, you know. Maybe it was a disinfectant, or maybe it was a laundry detergent or whatever, you know. So I went and got some Benadryl and started treating myself, you know, Benadryl cream and whatnot on the hives. And by the fourth night I'm staying there, I'm just itching myself to death. You know, I've scratched myself. You know, when I'm sleeping, I'm scratching myself, and it's just horrible. So I went to the front desk and said, hey, look, I'd like to check out, you know, early. Can I get a refund for my remaining days? Because I was going to switch locations, you know. And they told me no. I paid through a third-party site, super.com. And since I got the discounted rate, I had to go through them to get the refund. I called them, told them what was going on. I'm having some kind of medical issue. I want to check out early, and I want a refund of the days left. Nada, can't do it. I didn't get the insurance for the stay, so therefore I'm stuck. I really couldn't afford to leave that money on the table at that hotel and go check into another hotel. But I said, I'm there for work, I'm on a budget, you know. So I felt kind of stuck. So what I did was I always bring my blankets, some blankets and a pillow with me. Never know where I'm gonna be staying at. Uh, and I just lay down on top of their bedding and stopped using their towels and washcloths and used stuff I brought from home. And it started clearing up. But on the back of my legs, on the back of one leg where I had hives, I had obviously itched, and it then turned into an abscess. I didn't know at the time it was a bacterial infection, cellulitis, something like that. And I didn't realize at the time, but it was swelling up and it was painful. I started thinking about it, if I go to the hospital there, I'm gonna get a bill because my out-of-state insurance probably won't cover it, as they do. So, I just, I've only got a few days left, and I'll go to the doctor. If it doesn't get any better, a couple of days, I'll go to the hospital. I'll go to the doctor when I get home, I had to work 11 days. So I checked in the 3rd, the 14th, I'm checking out tomorrow, the 14th, I'm leaving that afternoon, right after the races. And as soon as my job is over, I'm headed back home to Arkansas. Well, the pain was so bad, I could barely stand on it. I had to work through it all night, the pain, in and out of the tractor, bending my leg. It was so painful. By the end of the night, there's no way that I'm going to be able to drive 15 hours home from Virginia. So I decided, okay, I'll just go to the little ER down here. It's a satellite ER from VCU Health. Thank you guys, VCU. I went into the emergency room there, and the doctor took one look at it and says, no, this is infected, and you need to be on intravenous antibiotics. And it was hurting so bad, and I was getting so sick, physically. I said, yeah, let's do that, because I'm really sick at this point. Not only physically, but just wiped out, mentally. So they put me on antibiotics, and they transferred me from this little satellite ER to VCU main hospital in Richmond, Virginia, 30 miles away, 15 miles away. Those people were so wonderful. I can't thank VCU Health enough. They were just absolutely amazing people. The nurses really took care of me, and I had to stay there 3 days. They wanted me to stay a little bit longer, but I really needed to get on the road, so they got me to the point where, I could travel. And after 3 days, I'm good, and I'm worried about the hospital bill at this point, though. So that I check out, and I'm able to drive to 15 hours home. My leg's still isn't 100% healed up at this point. It's still, this has been weeks now, and still got a knot on the back of my leg, right in the crease of my leg. So I get the hospital bill, $11,000, almost $11,500. And I'm just floored, Now, because I stayed in this little funky hotel and got into their hot tub that was full of God knows what, I'm pissed, and I'm trying not to get emotional about this right now, because I'm just really pissed about this. Just because it's a budget-friendly hotel does not mean that you have to sleep in squalor, that you have to sleep in conditions or use the facilities in conditions that's going to make you sick. I find that terribly wrong. In Virginia, the law says, liability law, that if you're 1% responsible, you have no case. 1% responsible. So I'm guessing that me choosing to stay at that hotel and continue to stay at that hotel was my 1%. So of course, lawyers, they want the quick money. They want the car accidents and the slip and falls and that stuff. Nobody wants to touch this case. So I'm gonna have to hire an attorney to do this, and I am gonna hire an attorney, because this really, literally gets under my skin. So this is where I'm at, You know, I've called the health department, and they went in there and closed down the hot tub because it wasn't being maintained correctly, and it had high bacteria rate, which is disgusting to think about. That was just soaking in fucking filth. But you try, you know, to maintain, and you know, I don't like being a dick. I don't like confrontations. You know, I'd rather not, because I lose my temper and I get really shitty. You know, and before I know it, I'll blow up, and it's just ugly. You know, and it's just not who I really am. You know, so I've tried to keep myself from getting outrageous about it, or outraged about it. But now, you know, I've filed a complaint with the hotel. I filed a complaint with Wyndham, who backs their hotel, Days Inn, at 706 Bypass Road. Don't stay there. I've called them. I've made a report with them. Now they're sending me paperwork, want me to file out an incident report and send back to the hotel, which I've got to have it printed. I got to print it out because the way they sent it to me, you know, it's not PDF. So I got to have it printed out, filled out, and I've got to send it back to them. I don't know what this is going to do, because I want a refund for my hotel stay. I want to be compensated pain and suffering, and I want my $11,500 hospital bill paid. Now this is a stretch, I know, you know, but I'm gonna go after it anyway. And at the very least, what's going to happen? I'm going to end up having to pay the $11,000 anyway, but I will make it known that this hotel is subpar, filthy, funky, and I hope nobody ever stays there, because the next person that gets sick there is probably going to be a child. It might be your child, because there was kids all swimming in that pool and in the hot tub. It might be your mama, your daddy. You know, and you think a budget hotel, you know, is a cheap little nasty hotel. Well, it's not. You know, this was a potentially a nice hotel. You know, it could have been if they took care of it right. My family's owned hotels. You look at the hundreds. I'm gonna put some of them up here. You look at the hundreds of bad reviews on this hotel. I wish I'd looked at it ahead of time. Funky rooms, beds not being made, beds being remade after people check out. They just remake the bed. You know, I never once, when I worked at my family's hotels, dreamt of just remaking a bed. You know, we always changed the sheets, cleaned the room. You know, everything was really nice, like you want to walk into your house and have it. This is the way we made our hotel rooms, and I think that's the way every hotel room should be. And I think these people need to be, I think hotels period out there in Virginia need to be brought up. The standards need to be brought up. And just because it's a cheap hotel doesn't mean you have to catch a disease there. You know, so this is where we're at. So Days Inn, I'm suing you. Oh, I'm suing you. And I'm gonna sue anybody else attached to you. The management, the owner, anybody else that I'd like to sue the maid too. You know, this is filthy. Save your money. It's a shithole. I'll see you guys later. Thanks.